let's begin in the US. Days away from Joe Biden's inauguration. How's the transition process going, particularly when it comes around to military?
Yep, thanks so much for having me. And just as a reminder, and appreciate you mentioning my U.S. Navy Reserve Commission, as a reminder, as I'm not on duty, these views are my own. Well, the transition, of course, had been going relatively smoothly up until early January, on January 6th, when there was the violence in the Capitol. And one major item when it comes to the military is this past week, the service chiefs. So this is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the vice chairman, along with the six service chiefs, the most senior members of the U.S. military, actually wrote a joint letter together condemning the violence and stating that what happened, any violation of the Constitution is, quote unquote, not only against our traditions, values, and oath, it is against the law. And then at the end of the document, it stated that on January 20th, Joe Biden will be the commander in chief. And it just wanted to make that clear to the entire U.S. military. A lot of the commentary was, why would that letter ever have to be written? It should be obvious. But the fact that it was written by all of those senior officers at once is unprecedented. So that just is a good symbol of how things are going, is that kind of behind the scenes, all the things that should happen in a transition are happening. All the staffers are meeting together, getting briefs, but there's definitely an undercurrent and echo of what happened on January 6th that's leading up to the 20th.
And if we now turn to the US relationship with Taiwan, in a move which has really angered Chinese officials, the United States has upped its support for the country?
Yes, so this goes back 40 years, right, where the U.S. has just created internal guidelines on how it does diplomacy with Taiwan. Restrictions on the Taiwanese leaders not being able to actually come and formally visit the U.S., but they can fly through hubs like Houston or Los Angeles and stop for a bit to have some kind of meetings, or not having a president visit Taiwan in an official capacity, things like that. Well, this week, the U.S. State Department has removed those restrictions. So that has pros and cons. Of course, it's going to anger China because the U.S. would have direct relations with Taiwan, which China considers part of its own country. But at the same time, the fact that it's done before Joe Biden takes on the presidency actually removes any issue with him having to make a decision like that. And it's actually a fairly bipartisan support for a move like this across the aisle. In a time of division, it's good to see that there's some issues that the Republicans and Democrats agree on. So, going forward, we should see more high-level engagement between the U.S. and Taiwan, and we should expect that sort of pushback from China on those on that increasing relationship.
Yeah, and meanwhile, our own ties with China, or Australia's own ties with China, haven't exactly improved. We had their foreign ministry spokesperson coming out and getting really quite angered about the fact that we had blocked some investment, saying that it was, political. I suppose we shouldn't really be surprised by that.
No, but it is a good time to just sort of step back and look at this in context. So we see Zhao Lijian, you mentioned the foreign ministry spokesman for China, in the paper every single week. And of course, over the past year, increasing in headlines as China's official statements have become more brazen against Australia. But this hasn't always been the case. The term in academia that I've heard is called wolf warrior diplomacy. It's a Chinese, actually Wolf Warrior is a Chinese movie franchise that's kind of like Rambo, where a Chinese soldier goes around and defeats foreign foes. But this term has been used to describe the diplomacy that a lot of the Chinese spokespeople are using. And in a paper earlier this year, it was unveiled that actually internally within the Chinese foreign ministry, it's actually on their annual performance, guidance that they want to be increasingly brazen in their public relations. So there's actually a motivation for these individuals within the foreign ministry to be noticed by using this type of diplomacy. So not just is it in China's immediate interest right now, but individuals will start to be doing this more and more. So we shouldn't be surprised by it. But the question is, when we see all of these comments, what next? What kind of actions do those turn to? We're going to expect, weekly wars of words. But the question is, what actions will this move toward? And particularly in the first 100 days of the Biden administration, we'll see what the Biden, words, types of words, and the themes and the messages they will use, and that'll be very telling.
Certainly one to watch. Jason Israel, thanks for your insights today.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a good weekend.